LeBron James is reportedly heading to the New York Knicks, a blockbuster move that would see him team up with Jalen Brunson and instantly reshape the NBA. But how did this stunning move come together? And is it really about to happen? Let me break it down. The goodbye and the whiteboard bombshell. It started with a goodbye that nobody in Los Angeles wanted to hear. After 8 long seasons wearing the purple and gold, LeBron James decided he was finished. He picked up the phone through his agent and he told the Lakers one simple thing: they could move on without him.
Breaking news out of the NBA. Our Shams Charania reporting that after 8 years, LeBron James.
The words hit the basketball world like a thunderclap. This was not a small trade or a quiet whisper of a rumor. This was the most famous player alive telling the biggest market in all of sports that he was walking straight out the door. And the reporter was not even finished. The report made it painfully clear that the king wanted to keep playing. He just did not want to keep playing in Los Angeles.
The NBA's all-time leading scorer will be playing a record 24th season in the NBA, but it will not be with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Stop and think about that for a moment. A record 24th season in the league at 41 years old. Most players his age are long retired, sitting on a couch, coaching a team, or talking about the game on television. But LeBron wanted more of it, and according to the people closest to him, he did not want it for the paycheck.
I'm told this is a happiness-led decision for LeBron James. He feels like he needs the
happiness. That single word changed the entire story. This was not a chase for the biggest bag of money in the room. This was a man near the end of a legendary road, looking for joy and looking for one final honest shot at a title.
Find his happiness elsewhere, and wherever he lands in free agency, it will not be driven by money.
And here's the part that told everyone this was truly real, not just noise. The Lakers did not beg, and the Lakers did not wait. The moment LeBron told them to move on, they moved on fast. Losing him instantly handed the team around $50 million in space to work with, and they wasted almost none of it. Within days, they had already gone out and locked in a young center named Walker Kessler to build a fresh new core around Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. When your old team turns the page on you that quickly, there is no going back. LeBron James was officially a free man, and the whole league knew it. Now the only question left was a big one. The moment that news became public, every serious contender had to at least ask the question: could they make the money work? Could they build a roster that appealed to LeBron? Could they convince one of the greatest players in history that their city was the right place to spend the final chapter of his career? Players like LeBron almost never reach this stage without already knowing exactly where they're going. So the fact that he was genuinely weighing his options made the situation feel completely different. For a brief moment, the league was wide open. Every front office had its own pitch. Some could promise another championship run. Others could offer familiar faces, established relationships, or a chance to mentor the next generation of stars. A few franchises simply hoped their history or market would be enough to get a meeting. But for LeBron, none of those conversations were ever going to come down to who offered the biggest paycheck. At this point in his career, legacy mattered far more than money. The question was no longer where he could play. It was where he could still compete for another title while enjoying the final years of one of the greatest careers basketball has ever seen. So where does a happiness-led superstar actually go? To answer that giant question, his agent Rich Paul did something that almost no agent on earth ever does out in the open. He pulled out a whiteboard on the Game Over podcast and he walked through the real list of teams, one by one, right in front of the cameras.
So I'm gonna take you on the inside a little bit, right?
On that board sat around 10 different teams, each one with its own notes, its own lineup ideas, and its own reasons to dream. Paul said he had heard from nearly every single team in the league. Philadelphia was on there after a huge trade. Miami was on there because of old bonds. Cleveland, Denver, and Minnesota all got their moment. Even the Warriors and the Spurs earned a spot in the corner. But there was one city that fit LeBron James like a tailored suit, and Rich Paul saved it for last on purpose. When Max Kellerman looked at that board, he noticed one strange thing. He noticed that Rich Paul kept praising every team on it over and over again.
So you basically said you would love to see every team on the board if the Knicks hadn't have won.
And that is the exact moment Rich Paul said the words that set the internet on fire. He admitted that this giant, detailed, carefully drawn whiteboard did not even need to exist in the first place. He admitted there was really only ever one true answer sitting at the top of the list.
There would be no board.
He'd be going to the Knicks.
He'd be going to the Knicks.
Sit with the full weight of that one sentence for a second. LeBron James, the biggest name the sport has ever produced, was a guaranteed lock to join the New York Knicks. It was not a maybe. Maybe. It was not a long shot or a fun fantasy. In the mind of his own agent, it was a done deal in every single way that truly mattered. What made that admission so surprising was not just what Rich Paul said, it was the fact that he was willing to say it at all. Conversations like these almost always stay behind closed doors. Agents rarely pull back the curtain on free agency discussions, especially when they involve a player as influential as LeBron James. Normally, fans are left trying to piece together rumors from anonymous reports and league insiders. Instead, Paul gave everyone a rare look at how these decisions are actually made. He openly explained why certain teams made sense, why others did not, and what LeBron was really looking for at this stage of his career. Except for one small detail, one thing had already happened that flipped this entire story completely upside down. And to understand why the surest thing in basketball suddenly turned into a giant question mark, you first have to understand exactly what the Knicks did in the month of June. The dream team that made perfect sense. To see why New York made so much sense, you first have to see what New York had just become. In June of 2026, after 53 long years of pure heartbreak, the New York Knicks finally reached the top of the mountain. And the man who carried them all the way there was a point guard named Jalen Brunson. In Game 5 of the finals, Jalen Brunson was simply unstoppable. He poured in 45 points that night, a brand new Knicks finals record, and he dragged his team back from the edge of death. The Knicks had trailed by double digits, yet they refused to lay down. Announcers had already started calling this group the Comeback Knicks, and it was easy to see why. Across the whole postseason, they trailed again and again and again and again. They clawed their way back. Brunson averaged around 32 points a game in that final series alone. He was named Finals Most Valuable Player without a single doubt in anyone's mind. In the end, they beat the San Antonio Spurs 4-1, and they slammed the door shut on the road in front of the other team's crowd. And when that final buzzer sounded, a city that had waited more than half a century finally let all of it go at once. 53 years of pain washed away in a single, unforgettable night. The last time the Knicks had stood as champions was all the way back in 1973, in the days of Willis Reed and Walt Frazier. A whole generation of loyal fans had lived their entire lives and never once seen this happen. So when it finally came, the whole city cried tears of joy together. Now here's where the LeBron James story clicks perfectly into place. Picture it for yourself. Imagine adding the greatest scorer in the entire history of the league to a young team that had just won it all, playing on the single grandest stage the sport has to offer. LeBron has always been fascinated by Madison Square Garden. Some of his most iconic nights in a jersey happened right under those famous lights. The idea of him playing there full time, in the final chapter of his career, next to a hometown hero like Brunson, sounds like something straight out of a movie script. And on the floor, the fit almost draws itself. Jalen Brunson would keep the ball in his hands as the engine of the whole offense, while LeBron James could slide into the exact role he plays best at this stage of his life. He could be the master playmaker, the calm closer in the final minutes, and the veteran voice who has already won it all 4 separate times. Younger stars like Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns would suddenly have one of the smartest passers in the history of the game setting them up for easy baskets. For a hungry young champion, adding a basketball mind like that does not sound like a risk at all. It sounds a lot more like a cheat code. And the connection ran far deeper than just basketball. The president running the New York Knicks is a man named Leon Rose. Long before he ever ran a front office, Leon Rose was one of the most powerful agents in the sport. In fact, Rose personally represented LeBron James himself for years, all the way from 2005 to 2012. He sat at the table for some of the biggest deals of LeBron's early career, and it goes even further than that. A young Rich Paul once learned the business working under Leon Rose before Paul went off and launched his own company, Clutch Sports, back in 2012. So the man running the Knicks and the man running LeBron's entire career have known each other for decades. When LeBron finally hit free agency, that long history cracked the door open almost instantly. The Knicks reached out and checked in with LeBron's camp right away. There had been a few bumps between the two sides a couple of years earlier, but they sat down together in early 2024 and worked all of it out. So by the time free agency arrived, the relationship was warm again. On paper, every single piece seemed to line up beautifully. A dream fit on the court, a dream arena above him, a dream front office connection behind him. Everyone in New York could already picture LeBron standing there in orange and blue, shoulder to shoulder with Jalen Brunson, hunting one more ring together. But dreams and cold reality are two very different animals, because the very championship that made the Knicks so glorious is the exact same trophy that may have quietly slammed the door in LeBron's face. And when Rich Paul sat down and explained why, even Max Kellerman leaned back in his chair in disbelief. What Paul said next is the real reason this whole story matters so much. The trophy that slammed the door.
But the fact that they won,
I always thought that eliminated.
There it is in plain words. The fact that they won the championship did not make LeBron more likely to become a Knick. In a cruel twist, it may have done the exact opposite. And Rich Paul, LeBron's own agent, laid out the honest reasons why, one after another. The first reason is respect. Jalen Brunson had just earned the right to be the true face of New York basketball. Paul made it crystal clear that this was now Jalen Brunson's show, and that Brunson had earned that right. You do not walk into a house that a man just built with his own two hands and take his favorite chair without asking. Then Paul went even deeper. He explained that when LeBron James joins your team, something big shifts, no matter how good your team already was. His words were blunt and honest. He said LeBron's enterprise value and what he just carries is different. That simply means the cameras, the headlines, the pressure, and the global spotlight all follow LeBron wherever he walks. Even a fresh, hungry champion would feel the ground move under their feet. Paul even said that for a move like this to truly work, Brunson would have to personally pick up the phone and say he had no problem with any of it. And the Knicks head coach, Mike Brown, the very man who guided this team to the title, understood that better than anyone. Coach Brown had already shown how much he valued his star, once saying Brunson is him when it comes to New York basketball. That is a coach who is not looking to shove his hero aside. The second reason is cold. Hard money. The owner of the Knicks is James Dolan, and Dolan has a hard line that he simply refuses to cross. It is called the second apron, a brutal spending limit built into the new rules. Dolan has said plainly that he cannot go into the second apron, comparing that kind of move to something almost self-destructive. And this is not just tough talk from an owner. Look at what already happened during this exact same summer. Mitchell Robinson had been a key piece of the championship run, a giant on the glass and a monster on defense, and yet the Knicks let him walk right out the door. He signed with the Boston Celtics for around $47 million over 3 seasons, and reports say New York chose not to match that deal because keeping him would have pushed them past that dreaded apron line. Read that one more time and let it settle. The Knicks let a champion, a real contributor, leave town purely over money. So the idea that Dolan would suddenly rip open his wallet or twist his whole roster into painful knots just to add LeBron James becomes a whole lot harder to believe. Yes, LeBron is widely expected to take a cheap, team-friendly deal, maybe even something close to the minimum, and on paper the Knicks sat a little under that second apron line, with a small bit of room to work. But the harsh rules around that apron make building a real team around him messy, slow, and difficult. To really understand why, you have to understand what that second apron actually does to a team. It is not just a simple fine or a tax bill that a rich owner can shrug off. Once a team crosses that line, the league basically locks the door behind them. They lose the ability to combine salaries together in trades. They cannot use their normal tools to go sign helpful role players. Their future draft picks can even get frozen and shoved to the very back of the line. In plain English, a team stuck over that apron becomes trapped, unable to improve around the very stars it already has. For a careful owner like James Dolan, that is a nightmare he flatly refuses to walk into. That is exactly why the Knicks front office has spent the entire offseason making difficult decisions instead of exciting ones. Rather than chasing another headline move, every decision has been about protecting the flexibility that helped build a championship roster in the first place. Reports throughout free agency made it clear that New York was carefully weighing every contract against the long-term consequences of crossing that second apron line. Even popular contributors found themselves caught in those calculations because keeping one player could make it much harder to improve the roster later. That approach also explains why adding a player like LeBron James is much more complicated than simply finding room under the salary cap. His contract might fit, but every move that follows becomes significantly harder. A championship team still needs role players, depth, and the flexibility to respond when injuries happen or opportunities arise during the season. New York's front office had just watched that formula deliver its first title in more than 50 years, so risking all of that for one blockbuster move, even one involving LeBron James, was never going to be an easy decision. In many ways, the Knicks weren't choosing between LeBron and nobody. They were choosing between LeBron and preserving the roster that had already proven it could win a championship. So add all of it up together. A settled leader in Jalen Brunson, a giant spotlight shift that follows LeBron everywhere, an owner who flat out will not spin past his line, and a deep, genuine respect for a group that just did something historic. League sources now view a LeBron move to New York as extremely unlikely. The surest thing in the sport had somehow become a long shot, almost overnight, and that is the cruel twist sitting at the very heart of this whole story. For years and years, New York quietly felt like the perfect final chapter for LeBron James. Then the Knicks finally won it all, and winning turned out to be the one thing that pushed him away. LeBron himself has spoken openly about how close the end of the road now feels.
The thought, creeps in my mind more at 41 years old of when when the end is.
The clock is ticking loudly on one of the greatest careers this sport has ever seen. He wants joy. He wants to compete at the very top, and he wants one last real run at glory before he walks away. The New York Knicks could have handed him every single one of those things on a silver platter. Instead, their long-awaited championship turned the easiest yes in basketball into a complicated, bittersweet goodbye. So for now, the whiteboard stays crowded with other names: Philadelphia, Cleveland, Golden State, and plenty more. But the team in that top corner, the team his own agent flatly called a lock, is now the one team he probably cannot join. Because sometimes in sports, the one thing you want most in the world shows up at the worst possible time. And for LeBron James and the New York Knicks, that cruel timing may have quietly cost us the greatest what if the league has ever known. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.